Hi there, this is James Swanwick, and you're listening to the Alcohol-Free Lifestyle Podcast, where you learn how to take back control over alcohol and live a life of health, wealth, love, and happiness. How do you be the only African American in a group of mostly white people who are quitting drinking? That is the topic today. One of my Project 90 members, by the name of Mark Davis, reached out to me proactively and suggested that we speak on this very topic. It didn't just come into my mind as I was sleeping one night. Mark Davis is 46. He's a non-profit business consultant, and he is a minister for the Redemptive Life Christian Fellowship, I should say, which is a non-denomination Christian church. And Mark is an African American. He's on day 62 without alcohol. So congratulations to Mark. That's amazing. And most of my Project 90 members, and just for the uninitiated, Project 90 is the group of people who are getting coaching and accountability and having fun around quitting drinking for 90 consecutive days. It's the program I've had since 2018. Mark joined 63 days ago. He's now on day 62 without alcohol, and we're going to dig into his story in a little bit and just find out what his drinking was before the program and how it's going at the moment. But as I said, Mark is the only African American participant at the moment, and Mark wanted to discuss that and talk about that, and he thought this would be super valuable for our listeners on the podcast and for viewers on the YouTube channel. Mark Davis, it's great to have you here. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, James. It's great to be had. And I'm excited about the opportunity to join you in this podcast. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And congratulations on day 62. Just tell us, before we get into this topic, what your drinking journey has been up until this point.
Well, as with many people, it's a process. Whether you start college partying, beers and all this stuff, postgraduate, become a professional. As you and most Project 90 members know, it becomes not an American norm, a societal norm, whether it's colleagues after work, whether it's dinner parties, or whether it's the guys getting together. A lot of our customs and traditions internationally, it's not just an American thing, it's not just a black or white thing, they're surrounded about alcohol. And for me, as you mature, age, wisdom, things like that, is not that you just recognize that there's something deep down inside in your spirit and your gut that says, I could be a little bit better without this. And that's what led me to your program, that curiosity to know deep down inside, I'm not at my best. I'm okay. Nothing's wrong. But why would I not want to be my best? And so that's why I reached out to you. I saw some exchanges with you on YouTube. We exchanged a few emails. And I remember where I was sitting at that Saturday when I emailed you back. I think you'd emailed you back. I said, let's do it. Mentally, emotionally, I was locked in at that moment because as you and many other Project 90 members know, it's like, where does a guy like me fit in? You're not an alcoholic. You're not, you're not out doing anything, beating your spouse or anything, but it's like, I don't feel great in the mornings. Even as ministers, right? And as ministers or pastors or people of the church, is like, people drink, you're human, but there's this thing for me, I can only speak for me, there's this thing deep down inside, getting up in the mornings consecutively, whether it's a night, 2 glasses of wine or 3 or 4 or the whole bottle. And it's safe. It's practically normal, right? It's normal because you do these things in the comfort of your own home and you're not hurting anyone. You're still productive. You have a job. You make a quote unquote high income. But for me, and like many of the other Project 90 members that I've resonated with, there's something really deep in your gut that says, there's more. There's more physically because you can't drink a bottle of wine every night for 50 years and keep a clean slate of health. So that's one, as I'm physically aging. And 2 is for me, I'll be honest with you, I had to be accountable to myself as a minister, honestly. And I was not being accountable to myself, and therefore through being accountable to the Word of God. Even as I joined James, you've probably seen a lot of videos that I've done, and it's amazing how the Scripture hits you in the face. Even as a minister, it talks about alcohol and the responsibility of it. And, from Proverbs to, Proverbs is a great one, for example, when it talks about the responsibility. Wine is a mocker, strong drink is a brawler. And, and then, one funny story in Proverbs, the end of it, and I won't take all the time to talk about the Bible here, but it basically talks about in Proverbs 31, the king's mother is talking about what kings do. She's talking to her son. If you're going to be a king, this is what it looks like. And basically, the piece with alcohol, she says, kings don't drink because they leave it for the common people to nourish their hard times, their ailments, and things like that. But you, as a king, as a man, it's not for you. And so I when I thought about that, I said, for me, that analogy was not literally being a king. It was more or less being the best I can be, the leader God called me to be, the leader who I am, the best that Mark Davis can be. Simple as that. And without judging, pointing fingers at others, but just saying, I knew this was a thing that I wanted to get into so I could be my best.
Yeah, wonderful. And now you're day 62, and you mentioned before that sometimes we lose count of what day we're on because at some point it ceases to matter. But just out of note, you're 62 days into the program. What were you drinking before you joined, by the way? Like, what was your drink, or what were your drinks of choice?
Chardonnay.
Chardonnay.
Chardonnay. My family, my friends, that's give me a chilled Chardonnay and I'm good. And again, these things are what we call normal, but the consistency and sometimes in excess, whether it's in your own home or whatever, I felt, even though I was under the umbrella of normal, for me and where I want to go in life, it was in excess.
Yeah, got it. Well, congratulations on your success so far. And we'll come back to the drinking part in a second. I wanted to shift the conversation to what you and I had decided that we were going to talk about here, which was the fact that at the moment you're the only African American, and you actually did educate me before we started here that it was okay for me to say the only person of color or the only black guy, that the most politically correct or most formal reference is only African American. So thank you for that. And you wanted to just point that out. And so what is it that you wanted to share, or what do you think is worthy of discussion about that?
So, and again, as we talked prior to joining live, the thing is for African Americans in this case, or any minorities, I can guarantee there's a certain percentage that's seen your YouTube videos or just seeing things on Facebook. And when they look, they're saying, I don't want to be the first one, or there's nobody that looks like me, whether you're male or female. And so that's often there's often a hesitation to join whatever group, this Project 90 or whatever, whether it's a civic organization or a social organization. There's oftentimes the hesitation because there's a fear that your culture and your identity won't be embraced, and there's just a fear of being the only black person. And I thought this video opportunity to talk with you, James, would be important because there are so many people, African Americans, just like myself, who can benefit from this program. That's what it's all about. It's not about the percentage or numbers. Is that there's people out there just like me who can benefit from this program. And, I want to say do it, because really the group is just a diversity of people, and I love it. And, oftentimes that's the fear of coming into a program and you're the only one. And it's like, what do I do? Especially if you haven't had experiences, whether it's corporate, again, whether it's recreational, civic, socially, if you haven't had a whole lot of exposure to interacting and being in groups with a lot of non-African Americans, there's oftentimes a reservation and a hesitation to join. And I want to help remove that barrier, the possible barrier, by encouraging African Americans, because for people like myself, just to liberate, just to say, what do you want in life and where do you want to go? And this project will help you, as every person, regardless of ethnicity, has said about your program.
Great. Thank you, Mark. When you were looking at maybe some of my promotional videos for Project 90 around quitting drinking, maybe you were reading some emails, or you're looking at photos, before and after photos of some members, what was going through your mind as an African American man as you were watching a lot of the videos and the testimonials and things like that? Were you like literally looking for another African American person? Were you noticing that most people were not of color? What was the story that was going on in your mind at that point?
That's a good question. Actually, not at all. And that it didn't happen until probably after a few weeks. I didn't even think about it because I was very selfishly focused at the time. I was trying to get what Mark Davis needed to get. And when I saw what you offered, I said, I think this is it for me. And knowing what I know, and I felt like having something to have some skin in the game would be a difference maker, and like-minded people, whether it's entrepreneurs or what we call quote unquote higher income earners, people who are trying to get to a certain place, increase whether it's sales, revenue for the individual, entrepreneurships, or just flat out have the creative clarity that most of us have celebrated through being alcohol free for a certain period or periods of time. And so for me, I was going in totally selfishly, just saying, this guy can help me. Yes, let's do it. And so it was all about what I could gain. And I was just laser focused in that way at first. And so then I began to think about, I know it's a Black guy just like me that's here in Georgia or California or wherever, right? Or who knows? And I understand the hesitation. I don't often have that hesitation because I'm a go-getter. I feel like nothing stops me but me. But the reality of the fact is that minorities often, in this case African American, don't feel as comfortable saying, I don't want to be the first one. And sometimes people literally say this, like, I don't want to be, I'm not going to that party. I don't want to be the only Black guy. Seriously. And these are conversations now that the world is pretty much saying, the lid is off. Let's talk about whatever. And let's talk about things that we're not so comfortable with, and that historically that we haven't been comfortable saying as African Americans. And I thought this was a good opportunity to bring that to light. And again, is not to say everybody should love me and recognize me as the only African American. That's not it at all. This is just the opportunity for other African Americans to say, step out there, be comfortable, insert yourself, and just be who you are. And so for me, knowing it, but I'm just going to be the best me, love it or leave it.
You mentioned something before where you said when you got into Project 90, you realized that there was a diversity of people. Will you just clarify that, just elaborate on that?
Diversity meaning geographical locations, meaning people who are, very young professionals, I want to say probably late 20s, that are doing quite well for themselves, seemingly. I don't have everybody's birth dates, but up into some of the group members have shared 60s and 69, as some of the members that you've interviewed have shared. So it's a broad spectrum of individuals, male and female, but from much different backgrounds. And I thought that was valuable because, with a person on their horse ranch out in the Northwest sharing, there's a certain bond that you begin to gain, and you appreciate the individual's challenges that they share, but their perspective also. And as I mentioned to you previously, so there's a lot of indirect learning and takeaways, oftentimes without saying anything in the group meetings. And Yeah, so I thought that was very valuable. So having that diversity, and oftentimes seeing other people's growth, their strength, has been very valuable for me.
Has anyone brought up the fact that you are African American at all? Has that been any point of conversation on any of the group calls that you've been on, or have you proactively brought it up on any of the many group calls that are available to members?
No, and I'll be honest with you, and my gut feeling, and I have a pretty keen sense of um, people. I don't think it's been an issue. I don't think anybody cares really, and which is good. Um, but I think, and from my experience, every part of group call I've been has valued my perspective and has, appreciated some of the things I've been able to offer the group as far as, my experience, perspective, or just a inspirational word for another member, just like many have given to me when I've had some challenges that I've gone through or shared with the group. So,
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you about the Black Lives Matter um, movement that started in, I guess, in June, late May, June of 2020. What were your thoughts around that whole thing as an African American man watching on all the worldwide protests and the very like huge viral Black Lives Matter
yeah.
hashtag and movement and symbol? What were your thoughts on that as you were watching on?
Good question. The reality of the matter is it's been an eye opener. I won't say an eye opener, an opportunity if you pay attention to the eye opening facts that what African Americans, I can only speak from my living only in the U.S. experience in this country. Um, if I go to a certain place driving a certain vehicle and I can have on sweats, I may be treated very differently than I walk into a boardroom with my suit and tie on, and I have tons of degrees, and so simply because of the color of my skin, and so the initiative um, started from just a simple a fairness perspective, whether it's a fairness of the law. Part of my challenge to the universe, not only to our country, but to extend this into the boardrooms also, James, because that's something that's African Americans experience. Discrimination sometimes in the unwritten rules and systematic ways of not being a part of different opportunities. And so for me, it's been very valuable because percentage wise, we know African American men in particular, which I am. I only have daughters, but I have nephews. And my heart bleeds because many of these folks look like me. And the reality of it is that it makes you very not afraid, but it's the sobering reality that your life, no matter, I look at myself, no matter how much I contribute, whether it's through the kingdom of God, whether my love for just people, period, black, white, everybody, is like my personal life may not be valued the same as yours or another individual's, simply because the ignorance of the amount of melanin in our skin. And that's something that I think needs further education. But I think the awareness, and I've talked to many of my good friends who are Caucasian to call me, text me to check on me and say, what can I do? And some of them said, I really haven't felt it. As a friend, I didn't feel the things that you are afraid of. I you know, I just never felt that. I never had that fear or the reservation when police get behind you and your heart beats because you're a certain gender and a certain ethnic group. But those are the realities. And the good news is that this awareness, people are marching, protesting nonviolently, black, white, brown, however you want to put it. And I think we're realizing, I won't say I think, I see that we're realizing just as a humanity, we're better than this. We're better than this. And I think our world right now is so intellectual. It's beyond the fact that this is old news. This is not 50 years ago. This is not 50 years ago, Alabama. This is the real business world. This is the international business world that we live in. And because a person looks differently, it's pretty absurd, actually. It's pretty ignorant. And so, although we know these things exist and they stem from traditions and environments and communities, but it's great to see that the conversations and the marches are happening. But we still got some work to do, and so I'm really excited. Although I've been very hurt when I see. I live in Georgia. You know what happened recently here earlier this year in our state, and it's quite ironic because one time, it's probably 15 years ago, maybe less, 10 or 15 years ago, I was running at night, and someone threw a bottle at me, and you know, and it was a Caucasian person, and said a few things, and I was just jogging, and it probably missed my head by a few inches. I got a knot on the back of my shoulder, but it was just, I'm just because I don't like this guy. I didn't know him. I'm jogging, and and so I could have jogging at night, but it just reminded me of people could just hate someone that they don't know because they're out jogging. And so these things are absurd, but the reality of the matter for right now is people, you still have to be safe. You still got to protect yourself. But in the future, 10 years, 20, 50 years from now, as the world emerges and becomes even more intelligent and really understand what it's about, especially, I have seen very few people in my life, especially when they become elderly or ill, that race matters to the person who can save them or help them to become healthy. And so when we start to look at things through those lens, or when you think about what is the end of my life going to look like, do I want to really live with hating a person that much? Whether that's not only racial gender, but even whether it's sexual preference or gender. This is just absurd now. This is 2020, and it's just time for the world to just kind of wake up. And I personally think, from a spiritual perspective, God is saying, I'm just stopping everything for everyone to just reset, refocus, and pay attention on what's important. And we have the opportunity to do that.
What have you identified is important to you in these last, say, 62 days that you've been alcohol free? What was your intention when you enrolled with me inside of my program, and how has that been going? And maybe just contextualize it a little bit by maybe sharing a little bit about your life and your family and how you became a minister. I'd just love to know a little bit more about you and what your motivation was for going on this path.
Oh, wow. So I'm one of those ministers that, I didn't have the squeaky clean background. It's like I'm that guy with the checkered past who's partied a lot, been every bar in the city almost, and been out there. But for me, I give credit to God for just giving me the opportunity to kind of wake up. And so Project 90, I said it to Kevin, who's an awesome counselor. Um, I said it because it's like my eyes have been opened. And 46 years, a couple decades of drinking, whether it's, social party, whatever. But it's like when you separate yourself from something, some people, it could be drugs, or it could be alcohol, it could be any other addiction, right? It could be shopping. When you remove and separate yourself from it, you begin to really see and value things more differently. And so, and part of the sobering reality, as I was sharing with the group recently, of being sober, is that things look very differently once you open your eyes. And sometimes that can hurt our feelings, because we may have friends or something like that they may only want to be drinking buddies, right? And it could be some of those people that may be holding us back from our true destiny, I feel like. And so for me, again, a person with a checkered past, um, saying at this juncture in my life, I want more, not only professionally. And I think what's been really showing up for me is the fact that, like, you're kind of mad because it's like, if I had this clarity like 10 years ago, man, I would have been killing it. But you realize, from my own thought, my belief is that it's on God's timing, right? I'm not 76. And so there's still so many things that I can do, I will do, I can accomplish. And the creativity, because my mind is really clear, has been flooding me. And so I do feel this, it's a healthy pressure of like all these projects that have come to me from being in a creative space. And that's been awesome. And when you're drinking, you literally are, besides the money spent piece of it, you're literally losing. And I really start paying attention. You know this as well as other Project 90 members. You're really exchanging a loss for a gain. So you're comfortable, you're buzzed for a couple of hours. Okay, that's, relaxed. That's what we call it, right? We want to have a couple glasses of wine to relax. But the reality of it is you're going to lose productivity. I don't care what you say. I've tried and done it. Say, I'm still going to do this. I'm still going to do that. And you kind of just say, I'll do it tomorrow. And you write it down and it still doesn't happen. And next thing you know, it's 2 months that's gone by. But you're exchanging productivity for lack of productivity. And just from a simple equation standpoint, if you switch that time, say, okay, I didn't have the couple glasses of wine. I'm gonna, whether it's finish proofing my book before I send it to the editor this week, for example. And you get that done, and it's like, wow, I've been saying honestly. I told Kevin when I first started with this, I said, I told you this. I said, I want to get my book off, right? And so, man, I've gotten this thing off to the editor, but that probably realistically wouldn't have happened for another 6 months because I would have said, yeah, I need to do it. I need to do it. And we wasted so much time. You lost the productivity. And then the productivity, you know this as well as I do. There's not a mathematical formula for this. It's almost like giving, right? Take it from a Christian perspective or a biblical perspective. There's no mathematic formula. If you buy into the system, great things come. I said this to the group before. When you free your mind of these things, it's almost like God or the universe says, because you've done this, I'll just reward you openly. And so for me, you said it before. So it's like, it's hard to explain to someone. It's like, it's not about how much you spend on per day or per week on alcohol. It's like, you don't know it until your mind is free and clear that these creative ideas are going to help my business. This book will sell, it'll profit whatever amount of money. It is not even about the profit. It's about just using my raw, deep down talents. And so for me, it's like getting that stuff out there. And most people in this group I've experienced is really not about just about, I want my business to grow. It's about the creativity. So they feel like they're in alignment with what they're supposed to be doing, with who they are, like naturally. And that's really amazing. And that's the thing that you can't write this formula down. It's times, I'll be honest with you, I've been frustrated, but I've checked the box. I'm like, I don't feel like being on this freaking call today. It's Friday. I'm tired. I'm getting on it because I committed to it. I'm going to do it. James said do X, Y, Z. And after the call, it's like, man, I really gained a lot. And it's like your attitude is shifted, but you're motivated, and it's not a formula you can package and put together. But if you work it, in my opinion, our universal God says, I will just reward you by removing yourself from something that's so common, and it just opens doors up for you. And so it's hard to say until you get into it, especially someone like me who, or like myself and many others who feel pretty articulate, feel pretty competent, capable, and feel pretty, pretty good self-esteem. But it's like, it takes you to that next level, And I love sports. I use a lot of sports analysis. It's like, you see these athletes. I'm a big Kobe fan. Rest in peace, Kobe. but it's like Kobe was that guy. He's the first person at practice and he's the last. And it's like, all these guys are pros. They're going to show up to practice, but it's like, that's what separated him, because of that extra boost. There's just that little extra. And for me, I wanted the same thing. I wanted, what is that extra that can keep me? You say 6 out of 10, I was probably coasting, making over 120 grand, probably coasting at 55. Seriously, maybe 60%. And I'm not saying it to brag, but I'm saying from a common sense perspective, I looked at it. I said, damn, if I could do 90%, 85, I'd be killing it. Seriously. And so one has to think, what is the difference between that, let's say 60 and 85, 90? And what is preventing me from being at that 90? 100 is a hard sale. People say, well, I'm every day I'm giving 100%. I know for me, that's probably not going to happen. It's not 100% every day. Whether it's this week, holiday week, and I may kind of fade off early Thursday and not work on Friday. But the reality of it is, even if we commit to 90%, that's killing it more than most. And so I looked at it again from a simplistic standpoint. What is it stopping me from being at 90? Is it alcohol? Is it not this and that and the other? So when I started adding these things that are part of the program, okay, we removed alcohol. Okay, cool. All right, we increased water. Okay, all right. I was doing ice cream for a minute. Okay, so I stopped that. I went from ice cream to not ice cream, smoking cigars, not smoking cigars. All right, it's like, now, Mark, okay, get your butt in the gym and like detox and all that good stuff. And so it's a process for people, right? It's like you don't go from here to here and it's like you're killing it 100%. And so for me, that's not been my experience. And some of us joke in the group calls is like, some of us are hung up on Diet Coke for a period of time, whatever, right? But we talk through it, we learn through it. But it's like you realize through these challenges, group therapy meetings and conversations, what are the things that that's holding back most? Alcohol, but you identify other sources that is holding you back, and you identify the resources that can help you to get to, let's say, that 90%. And I think that's the valuable thing, because you can just say, you can not drink and sit at home and never do anything forever. But it's all about, for me, is what do you want out of life? And so that was like the foundation for me for joining. And the question before God led me to this program is like, what do you want? Honestly. And I didn't want to be that, respectfully, I didn't want to be that old guy that looked back and said, damn, man, I gave a lot of money and the time to alcohol. And, I could have did this and the other if I just like stopped or really cut it out most of the time or cut back. I won't sit here and say I'll never have a drink ever again. I just don't put that pressure on myself, but I don't pressure myself to say, I want to get out, go ahead and get buzzed. I don't. So, man, I'm really loving where God has placed me right now. And I'm willing to ride on that. I'm going to ride that wave for now, because I've not been on that wave and I know what it's like. And so whether it's 90 days or 120, keep it going. I just want to keep going, feeling this way.
Mark Davis, 46 from Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you so much for suggesting we have this talk today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. It means a lot to me, James. I appreciate you. I really appreciate you. You're a man of your word. And for anybody who does watch this, you walk the walk, you talk the talk, but you walk the walk too. And I appreciate that, man.
Thank you, Mark. So appreciative of you. Congratulations on day 62. I'm sure by the time this comes out, you'll be rocking and rolling either towards or just past day 90, and long may it continue, sir. So good health to you.
Thank you.
Good health to you, and thank you for sharing your time and for guiding us through what many might deem to be a delicate subject. But I think I didn't feel like it was delicate at all. I didn't feel like it needed that. I felt like it was just very smooth and easy, and I so appreciate you giving us your insight on that.
You're welcome. And I took your advice. I hit the sauna today, man, the wet sauna, and I feel awesome.
Great work. Keep up the great work, Mark.
Okay.
Thank you so much for listening. I have some free stuff for you. If you go to jamesswanwick.com/guide, I will send you my formula for reducing or quitting alcohol. If you'd like to watch the video versions of these episodes, then you can watch them at my YouTube channel, which is at James Swanwick. If you'd like to send me a direct message on Instagram, you can do so at James Swanwick. If you would like to try a 3-day challenge, a free 3-day challenge, you can go to jamesswanwick.com/3-day challenge. If you would like to try the 30-day no alcohol challenge, you can go to 30-day no alcohol challenge. If you would like to schedule a 15-minute exploratory call with one of my coaches to see how we may be able to help you in your alcohol-free journey, you can go to jamesswanwick.com/schedule. And my request is, if indeed you enjoyed this episode or you have enjoyed the podcast, would you please go ahead and rate the show in iTunes, and would you please write a review? A review might just be a sentence saying, great listen, hey, this was fantastic. Oh, I really enjoyed this. Whenever you give a rating, whenever you write a review, it surges our podcast up in the rankings, enabling more people to see it and hear it, and potentially inspiring someone out there to reduce or quit alcohol and potentially transform their life. So yes, while it does help me to get ratings and to get reviews, you will actually be directly contributing to helping someone's life by having them discover this podcast. So if you are open to inspiring others and to helping me in the process, would you please go ahead and give this episode a ranking, and would you please write a review? Thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you on the next one.